Welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. And as I mentioned previously, like last week and other episodes, we are going to be talking about C.S. Lewis's book, The Four Loves. And I realized this was kind of a heavier book of his than I was expecting. So no worries. We're going to get into it. It'll all be good. As always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you are listening to Life of a Military Wife. Okay, so I can kind of hear you now, especially if you are new to the channel. You're like, whoa, Sam, Life of a Military Wife, why are we talking about a C.S. Lewis book? And there is a reason, I promise, there is a reason. While back, I did an episode about military marriages, and I've done some other ones along this topic. And as I was doing my research, I personally love C.S. Lewis's writing, huge fan, and I encountered a quote from some writings of his that I had absolutely never heard of, which was completely shocking to me. I thought I was rather familiar with his work. And so I got what I thought at the time was a absolutely brilliant idea that it'd be fun to do kind of a mini book club with you all and explore this book I'd never heard of about from C.S. Lewis. And so I pitched the idea to you guys, and well, it turns out there might be a reason why this is one of his lesser known works. Not that it isn't great, it is fabulous. I learned a lot, really got a lot out of it. It's not one of his easiest reads. It is a more complex read. I had to read it multiple times, and I was able to find a lecture series under the exact same title as this book that he recorded as a professor and listened to his recording explaining this basically the same topic and some of it from different angles with extra examples. That really helped a lot. So I will share that resource. Wow. It's kind of late. It's kind of been a day. I'll be sharing that resource with you guys as well. But basically the feedback I got was that it was not a very straightforward read. There were parts that were hard to understand and it was kind of complicated, but people thought it was interesting. It's just, again, I've been reading, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I'm currently reading the Narnia books with my kids, and I forgot how intense his writing can be. And when you're going from your exposure to C.S. Lewis has been mostly screw tape letters or Narnia or something like that, and then you're delving into some more of his professor's scholarly lectures, it's a different, speed. There's definitely different components involved. So sorry for that, but I'm really impressed with all of the the discussions I've had with people on this. I think there are definitely people who probably grasp it more thoroughly than I do, but I did learn things and there were points that I really genuinely enjoyed. So I'm going to share that with you guys. That said, everyone I talked to, there was not really outside of it's good, but it's hard. That was really the take back I got. And one friend said that one part that she really enjoyed was in the affection section. So the story, the first section. And I'm going to use the pronunciations that C.S. Lewis used in his lecture. So if it's different than how you thought it was pronounced, or I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm human. Please give me some grace. So that said, gonna dive into this a bit. So the four loves that C.S. Lewis talks about in this book and in that lecture series, and I will put the link. You can get the lecture series on Audible. I got it through Libby, through my library. There's audio versions, and you may not even have to pay to get the audio, which is helpful. But anyway, he breaks it down into storge, um, eros. Oh no, sorry. Storge, friendship. I forgot the friendship one. Or eros, which is romantic love, and then there's like a Latin word for charity. But basically, I'm going to just drop all of those words and use the more common English vernacular. So affection, friendship, romantic love, and charity, Christ-like charity. So, um, those are the four that he breaks it down to. And the part that I thought was really interesting when he got to affection was he made the statement, and I'm going to read this directly from the Four Loves. He says, we can sometimes point to the very day and hour when we fell in love or began a new friendship. I doubt if we ever catch affection beginning. To become aware of it is to become aware that it has already been going on for some time. And that was one point that I thought was really fantastic. And I was a she, that's from a quote later on the same page. My brain was skipping to the next part. Um, Need to slow down, brain, slow down. Stick with my mouth. Anyway, I love that part because with affection, you you don't realize it. I can tell you straight up the moment I realized when I was in love with my husband. I can tell you the moment when an acquaintance became a friend. Those are very stark moments. But as he goes on, and this is my analysis. I feel like there is a spectrum. So charity and affection are things that kind of develop gradually, almost imperceptibly. When you realize that they're there, you realize that they've been there. That's my take. Whereas friendship and love are more drastic, they're more intentional. There's a definite moment in time for those. The other thing was talks about a mother, and this was great. Um, how affection is something that can have some downsides to it, in so much that there are times where parents will be like, I do all of this stuff for you. I do this for you. I do that for you. Why don't you love me? Why don't you love me better? Well, are those things that the kid genuinely wants? You could be working two jobs and buying the kid everything they ever wanted and getting them into every sport and into private schools and all these extra things. And it's not that any of that stuff is bad, but maybe they just want you to listen to them when they're having a bad day. But you're so busy providing all these other things that you're not there when they need you. And so there's not a mutual affection. There's not, it can be, affection can almost be a little selfish sometimes. It can be, it's not always. Affection for a pet. You care about them, and all of those sorts of things. It's because you're taking care of them, you're putting energy into it. But you know, it's different. And he goes on to explain, and this is kind of where I feel like he helped delineate between affection and friendship more clearly. So, affection is kind of this general thing, whereas a friendship, and this is another direct quote, this is from the chapter on friendship. Friendship arises out of mere companionship when two or more companions discover that they have in common some insight, interest, or even taste the other which others do not share, and which till that moment each believed was his own unique treasure. The typical expression of opening friendship would be something like, "What, you too? I thought I was the only one." And so that's really where the difference is. It goes one step further. And especially that is when he talks about it, very common with men. Men tend to have these common association groups. We're all into sports, we're all into hunting, we're all, that sort of thing, where it's something you're passionate about and you like sharing what you're passionate about. You'll get these mom friend groups, but it goes one step further when you're in that mom friend group and you realize that you not only are you moms and you've got that thing in common, but you also had the same type of favorite books when you were a kid, or you watched the same shows, or I've talked about this before. I'm a bit of a nerd. I like science fiction. I love Star Wars. And it's really fun when I find someone who I can really talk Star Wars with, like really talk OG Star Wars with, and they've read all of the OG books, like the now Star Wars Legacy, but the original expanded universe stuff, and I can have some like really fun. No, Mara Jade was awesome because of this, and I'm sorry if I'm throwing out stuff you're not familiar with. Again, Star Wars nerd. Um, and just talk about, the differences and the nuances between the prequels and the originals and the sequels and all that stuff. I enjoy that, and that is something that is really fun, for me. But for me, it's also this goes into love languages. I really value when somebody helps meet a need of mine. When I am really struggling and then that person goes out of their way to help me out. Um, that means a lot to me, and that really has helped take acquaintances to friends for me. Um, but yeah, so that was one thing think. And the other thing where he tries to break out what the difference is between affection, friendship, and love. Love wants privacy, whereas friendship is, hey, the more the merrier. Wait, I'm not the only one. Let's see if there's more like us. And so that's really the difference. Acquaintances are people who you might have thought you were friends with and you associated with. And again, I'm in a lot of what I'm saying right now, I'm paraphrasing things from his lecture and all of that. He goes on to say that friendship or acquaintances might be people you thought were friends, you worked with or lived next to or whatnot, but then you go away for a time and you're separated and you run into each other again and you talk for a little bit. And after a while, you run out of things to talk about. And it's like, okay, hi, bye. It was cool seeing you. And we all had those moments where you're like, oh, I thought, okay, where you thought there was more to your friendship or your relationship than there really was. And it's not that you don't genuinely like that person or they're not a great person. It's just you hadn't connected on the level you thought you'd connected on. Whereas there's other people, and I still have friends like this to this day, who you may go months or years not seeing or talking to, but the moment you get back on the phone together, you could talk for hours. You just don't run out of things to talk about. And that was actually one of the clues for me. I wanted to be friends before I married someone. That was huge for me. And so my husband and I dated long distance, but because of that, we were able to really build that kind of friendship where we could just talk. We literally talked for 4 hours every night on the phone for months. And we didn't run out of things to talk about, which is fantastic because now when he's deployed, I know we have stuff to talk about. It's helped. We've already had that experience. We have that foundation of just being friends, of just having things that we like to talk to each other about and share. And we have different interests, but we have things in common too that we love to talk about together. And so that has been the foundation for us. But the change is that then it grew into that romantic love where we wanted that privacy. We wanted that the us time. We wanted to be together. And so he goes on into romantic love and he talks about romantic love. And one of the things he mentions is that, and this is a point that I found was really profound, and he goes into this more with a really great analogy in the recording that isn't in the book, which I found tragic. But basically, we've all known those people who are constantly falling in love. And here I'm going to read the direct quote. We've all heard of people who are in love again every few years, each time sincerely convinced that this is the time, this time it's the real thing. They are wondering over and over that they have found their true love and will themselves be true till death. Like they're just, people who are always in a new relationship, they're not finding a new thing, they're always falling in love. He's like, it's kind of like somebody who wants to experience what it's like to be in water, what being in water is like. And so they just keep diving into water, into a lake and climbing out and diving in and climbing out. The diving is exhilarating, it is fun, it is easy, but that's not what being in water is like. You need to swim, you need to float on your back, you need to go under the water and explore, you need to there tread some water, like look around. That diving in is not the whole thing, and falling in love is not being in love. Being in love is work. It takes effort, it takes time. It's not always easy, and it's not always fun. It's the falling in love is the fun part. Now, being in love can be fun, but it's work. And I love that he goes into the event of falling in love is such a nature that we are right to is is of such a nature that we are right to reject the intolerable as intolerable the idea that it should be transitory. So, because falling in love is so enjoyable, people forget that it's a transition. Falling in love is the transition from another state of a relationship to the state of being in love. And so they keep thinking, oh, it's got to be this, it's got to be spontaneous, it's got to be this and that and the other thing, when really it's just not always like that. And so then they fall out of love because it's not like falling in all the time. And okay, let me maybe that's not clear. So let me back it up a bit, a hot minute. Here's my hot take. Like it, love it, leave it, whatever. I've seen that. I have seen friends who are in and out of relationships all the time. They're looking for this magical moment, this person who it's always going to be romantic and wonderful and fantastic. And my brain goes back to the original Yours, Mine, and Ours, when the daughter is crying because her boyfriend is upset because he says that she doesn't really love him because she doesn't want to sleep with him. And the stepfather says, as he's escorting her mom to the car because she's in labor, says that going to bed with someone isn't being in love. It's getting up and facing the world every day with them. It's the dentist and the grocers and the cleaning and the children and the taking your wife to the hospital because she's in labor and being there for her. That is what being in love is. It's facing the world every day with them. And that is something I have seen that sometimes people can lose sight of. That true love is romantic love is facing the world together. And it's not, I honestly, I think some of the times I have loved my husband the most is when he has held my hair so that it didn't get in my face while I was getting sick to my stomach because I had morning sickness. That is true love. Or him being willing to take care of a kid who is massively sick because I can't handle the smell of the bodily fluids that are happening because of morning sickness. Usually it's morning sickness. Oh, it messes with me. I have very sensitive smell issues, but that's a whole nother ball game. Or the fact that my husband will fill up my tank, not because I can't, but because oh my gosh, me and smells. I really do have a smell issue. The smell of gasoline makes me nauseous. I hate filling up my tank for that reason. So he fills up my tank for me sometimes. Not always. I have to be a big girl and do it myself. Not as often, but anyway, that's love. To me, that's true love. True love is not having to fill up my gas. True love is my husband cleaning up the kids being sick to their stomach. That is true love to me. And that doesn't sound very romantic, but that's okay. So, that doesn't give me a lot of time. I really ended up with more to say than I thought I would have to say. But the next part of the gets into Christian love, and he talks about it, and it got really confusing. I had to listen over and over to this part, and I'm gonna kind of wrap it up a bit succinctly. But basically, he talks about the first part of Christian love, of Christ-like love or charity, is putting Christ first. That if we love ourselves, or we love our dog, or we love our car, or we love XYZ thing before him, then we can't love him. But once we put it in order, once we do put that Christ-like love first, loving our Savior, loving God and Christ first, then our capacity to love increases. And we are given two byproducts of Christ-like love or charity. And those Christ-like are of course, now that I'm trying to say this, my brain is going to fail me and I am going to mess this up. Give me a second. So one of them, it's grace. He ends up phrasing it as gift love. Okay. Gift love, which is grace, and need love, which to me, I put as gratitude. So grace and gratitude are the byproducts. It's gift love and need love. Gift love is this ability to feel our capacity to love is increased. We can feel greater love for more people that we would have not had the capacity to do otherwise. We can give more grace. We can understand and appreciate others. And then the need love is that we need him and we love him because we need him. We are grateful. That love is gratitude. And love is gratitude for all that he has given us, all that he does for us, all that he helps us with. And that even though we love him because we need him. And we need him and love him and we're grateful for him. And maybe that's not as clear as I'd like it to be, but it was, like I said, not the easiest, not the most straightforward. Let's put it that way. It was not the most straightforward read. It was something I had to go through. And I will admit, I've read this now a couple times because I wanted to be able to give a good explanation to you all. And on top of it, the listening to the lecture really helped. It helped a ton. So I will put a link to the lecture you can get on Audible. But also check Libby or any library app for audiobooks that you have. It might be on there too. I got mine through Libby, but I know it's on Audible. And I'll put that Audible link for the recording in case that's just a better fit for you. I hope you enjoyed this. This was, it didn't turn out the way I wanted, but it worked out. Next time I try to do one of these mini pop-up book club things, I will try to make it more approachable of a book. I've started The Art of Comforting, which is one I wanted to do at the end of July. I am now thinking I might just do a book review instead of a book club on this one. But if there is a book that you guys as a community have found helpful as military spouses or as the military community, something that really resonates with you that you would love to share with other listeners, please make suggestions to me on a book club book, and I will put it out and we'll give everyone a chance to read it and get feedback on it. But I really would like to actually do more of a book club book where you guys can submit questions and comments and quotes and things that you liked. So that it's more of a conversation. Granted, I'll probably end up reading all of your guys' feedback, but it's still there. That said, I'm hoping, yeah. So if there's anything you want, send me these book ideas. I want to hear them. But I'll probably just do a book review for The Art of Comforting, and that will be later. It'll probably end up in August. I am also putting together a panel for homeschooling. I'm hoping to get that done. End of July, I'm hoping to record and get it out before school year starts so any homeschooling families can get some ideas off of that. I have 2 potential people for the panel. I'd like a panel minimum of 3, max of 4, and I'd like an alternate just in case when it comes down to recording, someone's not available because life happens. So if you're interested in being on a homeschooling panel, because you are homeschooling military family, please feel free, reach out, let me know. I already put it out on social media and I've got some feedback. So all that said, I hope you all have a wonderful week. I am also looking for funny military stories, but again, social media is where you can find me on a lot of this stuff. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and thank you for listening to Life of a Military Wife.